Hey, folks out there, waiting to see you line up in our live interview. Come join us. We're in the Golden Gate Park, in the heart of the historical place where the counterculture took place here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And I'm here with a new group of vets that I just met today, and also my friend Ian. I'm wearing this cannabis shirt. It's an exciting time to be on planet Earth. I'm wearing a cannabis shirt that my mom bought in Uruguay for me. And where they're going to go to the Emerald Cup, that is this big gathering about cannabis in Santa Rosa, and they're passing through the city. And Matt agreed to talk to me. So thanks a lot for your time. And I guess I'll just start by asking you a little bit of your story and your background.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Can you tell me a little bit about your story and your background?
Okay. I am a military veteran. I was in the 101st Airborne Division stationed in Kentucky, and I deployed twice to Afghanistan, the theater combat that I saw, and I was medevaced once. Afterwards, I came back with a lot of trauma, a lot of problems, and they put me on a very, very long list of pharmaceutical drugs to try to help me, try to fix me. None of them worked, and I needed to start reaching outside of their traditional Western medical practices and trying to find something that will work for me.
How long were you in Afghanistan, and what kind of work did you do there?
My first deployment was a little over a year, and my job was infantry. We were door kickers. We did all the worst stuff that the Army has to offer.
Maybe it's not so easy to talk about this, but can you just tell me the routine of one day of your work in Afghanistan?
Usually several combat patrols separated by short periods where we could eat and rest a little bit. Normally there was multiple combat patrols a day. All of our movements were movements contact. We would go out and eventually we would get hit and respond to the fire.
And how were you feeling by doing this job?
By the end of the deployment, I felt horrible. I wasn't quite sure what was wrong, but there was something deeply, horribly wrong. And it took about 8 months being home before I really realized the depth of my problem, that I needed. I wanted to check out at that point, and that was the first time I tried to commit suicide.
Sorry to hear that. So you went once. I think you stayed over a year. Is that correct?
Yeah,
and
right.
Then that was when you were injured and you had to be evacuated, or was it the second time?
Second time I went to Afghanistan again, this time to Paktika province, right on the border of Pakistan, and it didn't take but 3-4 months before I was medevaced to Landstuhl, and they had to wire up my face and put these pieces back together. And I had a traumatic brain injury, I had spinal injuries, I had PTSD.
What is PTSD? How are the symptoms?
Honestly, I had PTSD way before I deployed the second time. I had PTSD when I tried to commit suicide the first time. But PTSD is, for me, it was a situation of constant alertness, constant looking for threats in my immediate environment. And I was constantly on edge, angry. I'd strike out at things. I was a violent person. I wasn't a good person to be around. I was a bad human being.
How serious is the problem of PTSD in the U.S. Army?
It's everywhere. It is literally everywhere. I don't know of many people that really come back and don't have it, at least to some degree. Not everybody suffers to the equal degree of other people, but everybody comes back with a hint of it.
And how bad is this, health situation in terms of suicide attempts or things like that?
We're losing 22 people a day, 22 veterans a day to suicide, and What I've learned in coming to advocate for people with PTSD is that it's not just the veterans we need to worry about, it's the civilians too. There's 121 people in the general population in America every single day that lose their life to suicide.
Yeah, those are really horrible numbers. It's really shocking, and I don't know if a lot of people know about this. So I'm happy we can talk about it here. Can you just tell us how did your process of healing and turning things around happen once you came back, or did it take very long for you to start shifting gears?
It did. I was stuck for a short period of time. I was under the care of the medical doctors in the VA, and they gave me a lot of pharmaceutical drugs to try to help me, but none of them helped. They just sort of slapped a Band-Aid over the problem and kept me in stasis where I could not change and I couldn't deal with what had actually happened to me or what the things that I had done. So eventually I knew that I needed to get off the prescription drugs and get onto some regimen that would allow me to process everything that had occurred. I started seeking out alternative treatments, and the first thing that I found was cannabis. And I moved to Colorado in order to be legal and not have to worry about my own freedom after having given up my freedom for a number of years to fight for the United States.
A medical refugee.
Yes, now I turned into a medical refugee in my own country and moved from North Carolina to Colorado to try to take advantage of a medicine, a natural medicine, somewhere where it was actually legal.
And what about other plant medicines? Did you cross them? And
I did. I've known about a lot of other plant medicines since college in the 90s, but I only really started exploring them in Colorado. Once I'd been in Colorado for a short period of time, like 2 years I realized that I'd come to about the end point of where cannabis could take me, and I started looking for new ideas, new modalities of treatment that could help me break through my barrier.
yeah, that's something I heard about a lot from other veterans, that cannabis could be kind of like the first step or kind of a immediate band-aid, and then some of them, after a while start searching out for other plants, and a lot about ayahuasca. So I would like to hear a little bit about your experience on this field.
Well, I've known about ayahuasca for a long time, but I had the opportunity to take part in sort of an experiment about sending veterans down to Florida to take part in an ayahuasca ritual to see if that it might help with PTSD symptoms. And quickly I found out that it did. Absolutely it did. The first night I gave up so much of my own guilt and so much of my own self-punishment, my hatred of other people, my intransigence against anything that might make me better. I gave it all up, and I started to embrace change.
How is it, this process of taking this substance and started to giving it up? Is it visions, some insights? How does that play out in the ceremony?
There are visions, yes, but I wouldn't say that they're central to the experience. What was most central to me was the emotional component, the ability to come into contact with feelings that you had held at arm's length for years. I had spent so much time running away from the thoughts and fears and feelings that came to me that night, and suddenly I was able to actually embrace them without fear and without animosity, and I could start to deal with them.
So it sounds like pretty breakthrough kind of experience.
It was, and after my second experience, they asked, what does ayahuasca mean to you? And I said, love. But by the fourth experience, I understood that it was work.
What do you mean by that?
There's nothing that these substances don't really help you if you do not do the work yourself inside, and you try to take what you learn while under the influence of these substances and you bring it back to real life and try to apply it. Then you see the real benefits of this medicine.
And yeah, maybe that's what some people call integration or doing your homework. Can you tell us more about this journey? I think you went to Peru as well in a retreat. How did that go?
I did. When I went to Peru, I realized there was so much more to this medicine. It's so much stronger of an experience going to the source and learning from actual native traditions what the plant really means to them and how to apply it in your own life. It opened my mind up in a way that I did not think was possible. It was a revelation, absolutely.
And what about thinking about, war and being a soldier? How do you look at these topics today?
Ayahuasca was really a call to action for me. I knew that there were a lot of things that were wrong with our planet, with our country, with our world, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I guess I still don't exactly know what to do about the problems, but ayahuasca has given me the desire to fight, to change everything.
Another kind of fight.
Yes, we're trained for combat. We know how to do that. We know how to go out. We know how to fight. We know how to gain objectives, and we know how to win. Now this is a different kind of fight, and instead of being a warrior of violence, now I'm a warrior of peace.
And what do you think about the current military complex and all the wars and all the political situation of your country?
I think we're going down a very dark road, and if we don't change soon, it's all going to blow up in our face. Everything's going to collapse. We are on a completely unsustainable position, almost like a Tower of Babel ready to fall at any moment. And if we don't change our course, we will fall. And history is replete with the wreckages of broken empires, and we'll just be one more in the list if we don't realize that our strength is not in the land that we control, in the amount of money that we have, in the amount of things that we own, but in the people that are around us.
Matt, how old were you when you joined the military?
I was old. I was 29.
And that 29-year-old Matt thought he was joined the military to do what?
I thought I joined the military to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what they tell us. That's what our oath of office, our oath of enlistment really is. And I found that not to be true. As soon as I joined, I knew that all of the platitudes and the things that we say, they're thinly veiled lies. And we're really, our ideal is...
Lies by the government?
Lies, yes, by the government and by society too. It's not just the government, but we're beholden to many corporate interests too, and it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call when you go in and you realize that you're not fighting for the actual stated goals of your country, and you're fighting for a more shadowy agenda.
And now you're fighting for love and for peace, and we are in the heart of, the hate is right around here, where we're all in a way, legatees of this great counterculture legacy. How are you going to pursue your fight for love and peace with ayahuasca and the blessings from the Amazon forest and the indigenous people? What is the work you're planning to do ahead?
Love, peace, and unity. Ideally, we want to bring together veterans from all stripes and provide communities where they can heal, they can find their voice, and then they can change the world.
Do you really think that a bunch of vets drinking ayahuasca will be able to do all that much things?
I think vets doing anything together will change the world, absolutely. I think that possibly ayahuasca is the tool that we need to project ourselves up to the next level.
Well, I too think we can do something. I don't know how much we're going to change, but we can certainly do something. I want to thank Matt for being here and for your courage and for spreading this message. And I also want to say that Matt is featured in an upcoming documentary called From Shock to Awe. And you can follow them on Facebook and Twitter. They're friends of Chacruna. And it's a real pleasure to be here in this sunny day with this, warriors for peace, warriors for love, warriors for idealism. We are against, prohibitionism. We're against invading other countries, but we're also against persecuting minorities in our own countries, in our own lands, and the wars against our minds and against our consciousness and against our cognitive freedom. And I'm happy to be helping spread these voices. Keep on tune. Keep us following us on Chacruna Live. Thank you very much.